Honest manager in baseball, Whitey Herzog. It was sad to see him come back to St. Louis today without his ball club. Sad to see him in street clothes instead of his baseball uniform in the middle of the baseball season. Whitey greeted at the airport by our Jim Boland, and Jim asked him when was the first time he thought about quitting.
Well, about a month ago. I knew we were having trouble getting untracked and kind of took it as a, I guess, a personal insult to my ability as a manager. We couldn't put anything together, and we just haven't been able to put anything together up till now. And after the 3 games the other night, and we played in San Francisco this week, and we played so bad fundamentally and just literally gave 3 games away, I just made up my mind that was enough.
What's the matter with the ball club? Why are these guys, the same guys that won for you, now making fundamental errors?
I don't know. I have, put it this way, I have some reasons to believe I know maybe why, but I'm not sure they're correct answers. And
free agency having
it might have something that they're there in body but not there in mind, and they're worrying about where they're going to play next year, maybe. Maybe they're worried about, you know, their contracts are going to get, where they're going to be, and consequently, I don't really think that maybe mentally their mental approach to baseball isn't what it used to be.
Those players who didn't perform certainly owe that man, Whitey Herzog, an apology. Cards president Fred Koolman and general manager Dal Maxville flew to San Diego for the announcement today by Herzog. Maxville has stayed with the team. Fred Koolman has returned home. Koolman was asked today if he had any replacements in mind for Whitey. Let's go to the words of Fred.
No, because when he talked to us, I guess it's been 3-4 weeks ago, we didn't really give it serious thought. We didn't really give it, we said no. And it's only been in the last week and a half that Whitey in particular has grown more and more determined that that's what he wanted to do.
Oh, the Cardinals obviously have been a dreadful ball club. They're in last place in the National League East. What's the problem? Well, Whitey said he didn't know. Nobody really is blaming Whitey Herzog, including the man who pitched for him for many, many years, St. Louis, and Bob Forsch. And tonight, Forsch talked about Whitey and whether it was his fault or not. Let's go to the words of Forschy.
I can't believe that. You know, he didn't make any outs this year, and he didn't give up any runs. You can only work with what you have. If you've got the horses to win, you're going to win. Then it's just a matter of managing. And he never made any bad moves. I mean, he never brought anybody into the bullpen that shouldn't have been able to do the job, or sent someone to pinch hit that shouldn't be able to pinch hit. You know, it really wasn't his fault. He took the brunt of it, I know.
All right, he certainly did. And now, the replacement for Whitey Herzog, well, who are the possibilities? Many. There's Joe Torre, the former Cardinal, who hasn't managed in years. He's functioning as a broadcaster for the California Angels. When I talked to Joe on the West Coast today, he said he'd listen if he was approached. Then there's Davey Johnson. Yes, hated by Cardinals fans when he managed the Mets, but he won more games in the last 6 years than any man in baseball. Then, of course, there's every guy fired by George Steinbrenner, who's still out there, and Hal Lanier, who is probably, perhaps, the front runner in any consideration for replacement. Hal's a very close friend of Whitey's. He was third base coach for the Cardinals during many of their championship years in 1980, and I talked with him today about the possibilities of him coming to St. Louis. Let's go to that discussion.
Let me ask this point blank, Hal. If the Cardinals offered you the job as manager, would you accept it?
Oh, that would be, you know, ideal, I guess, because, you know, I've spent a lot of time in St. Louis, made a lot of great friends. You know, I know the ball club very well, and again, right at this particular time, I just haven't been, you know, contacted by anybody, and I'm sure that when Maxville, you know, Maxie decides to who is going to be the manager, he's going to have to, you know, get in contact here with Lee Thomas and the Phillies organization.
Well, whoever replaces number 24 is going to have some huge shoes to fill. Our Gary Apple flew today to San Diego to be with the St. Louis Cardinals, where they're playing the Padres. For the story from the West Coast, let's go to Gary.
Okay, Zip, thanks very much. Again, we are live outside Jack Murphy Stadium here in San Diego on a rather beautiful night for baseball, but a rather strange night for the Cardinals. Whitey Herzog not inside the stadium managing this team, and this is something we have grown used to in the past, having him on the bench and in the dugout. It is a very strange scene indeed. The Cardinals are trailing the Padres right now. It is in the 6th inning, and San Diego leads it 2-1. So to this point, nothing has changed. The club is continuing to play bad baseball. Gary Templeton, the former Cardinal, putting the Padres ahead with a home run in the 5th inning. Again, it's 2-1 San Diego in the 6th. I'm joined live right now by a Post columnist and a longtime St. Louis writer, Bernie Michaelis. And Bernie, we were sitting here talking. This is a strange day, I know, for all involved in baseball surrounding St. Louis Cardinals.
It happened so suddenly. I mean, you could see the pain on Whitey's face in the last few weeks. It was obvious that he was extremely frustrated, but I was surprised that he took it to this extent. I just think he was sick of watching this team play. I think even as resourceful as he is, he realized there was just nothing he could do with this team anymore.
Bernie, you've been around this team as I have for a long time. Did you see this happening? Did you? And Whitey, of course, is a tough guy to read, but did you see this happening?
Well, I really did, Gary, and not that, I mean, it's a bad team. You can see that in the standings every day, but basically, when you have 10 free agents on your team, as the Cardinals do, it's just a very divided team. It's got divided loyalties, guys with one eye on the door. A lot of times I think they're disinterested by, in playing the game. And Whitey was often critical of them, and I think that kind of beat down their confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just an ugly situation all the way around.
Not to already speculate as to what might happen with Whitey Herzog, but it was interesting in reading Mike Lupica's column in the National a couple of weeks ago. He said Whitey Herzog is a guy who never got to play for the Yankees, who always wanted to play for the Yankees, was a Yankee fan since he was a kid. Do you see him turning up as the Yankee manager in a couple of years?
I really don't. If I had to guess, in fact, Whitey says it in his autobiography. He talked about his dream job being if Denver ever got an expansion team. He has a home out there. He loves Denver. I think he would love to start up an organization from scratch. I think he'll certainly wait. He's not going to rush into George Steinbrenner's arms. I can guarantee you that.
That would be like running into the fire while it's still burning.
He already has one mess. He doesn't need another one.
This is weird now, Bernie. We go on with a season that has been dismal, to say the least, so far. Do you see any point to this club turning it around?
No. I think guys are playing for next year's contracts, quite frankly. I think it's really imperative that they bring a young, enthusiastic manager in here, someone who they can grow with the next few years. This is going to be a total rebuilding process. The purge has begun with Whitey's resignation. Now they're going to have to go with a good young manager who I think will be suitable with the young team.
All right, very briefly, and we'll wrap this up right now. Let's speculate a little bit. Let's have some fun with this. Hal Lanier's name has been tossed around. Joe Torre's name, everybody thinking who the next manager may be. Quickly, who do you think?
How about Ted Simmons? He'll kill me for that, but he knows the system. He knows the players. He's headed up the farm system.
Yeah.
To me, he's a perfect choice. He's enthusiastic. He's intelligent. Where else would you want to look?
Okay, Bernie, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Gary. See you.
All right, again, the Cardinals are trailing the Padres in the 6th inning right now. It is 2-1, but again, a very strange day, and I'll wrap it up before I throw it back by saying it was so strange when we got on the plane to come out here to San Diego, the pilot got on the loudspeaker and said, if you haven't heard it yet, Whitey Herzog has resigned as Cardinals manager. That kind of sums up the day. Zip, take it back in St. Louis.
All right, thank you very much, and it does, Gary. Everybody's stunned about Whitey's resignation today. By the way, Whitey will stay on with the Cardinals in a front office capacity. His contract runs into 1992. The Cardinals say they will pay him his full managerial salary as long as he stays with the club. They also said if he gets an offer to manage elsewhere and wants to go, they'll let him out of that deal and free him up to manage elsewhere. Whitey's had a few influences himself in his career. One of them, Bing Devine, the former Cardinal GM, the former executive with the football Cardinals, the man who was in the Mets front office when Whitey was before he ever came to St. Louis. And Bing, as Whitey, knows that players are changing, the game is changing, free agency's changed some things, and he feels people have to be flexible these days. When asked about Whitey, he had a lot to say. Let's go to the words of Bing Devine.
I heard Whitey say today something I've recognized for 10, 12, 15 years now, that you can know change is essential. It's going to change without you because the players have the privilege under certain conditions and at certain times of their careers of changing, so you might as well be prepared to take the initiative and change yourself.
Change needed once again, as the Cardinals will have to do without Whitey. There are a lot of Whitey Herzog stories, a lot of funny ones, a lot of great ones, a lot about the glory and the suffering the man's been through in 10 years as manager of the Cardinals. Bing Devine recalls one when Whitey came to him for advice on his career way back in the early 80s. For that story, let's go back to Bing.
When Whitey was faced with the decision with Mr. Busch of choosing either to be a manager or a general manager, it was felt that he couldn't do both, probably didn't want to do both. And he came to me as a longtime friend and previous associate, and he said, what do you think I should do? And he told me the story, and I said, I frankly think you should be the general manager. Managing on the field is more difficult. It's going to be more difficult as time goes on, and we know that managers are changed. If you're in the position of general manager, you can at least make the decision on changing, when to change and to whom to change. And he said, yeah, but I like the field, and I don't think I want to give it up. I said, you've answered the question. You want to stay on the field, so that's where you should be. That's where he's been. He's been a good one, and I would personally doubt that he could be away from it for a long period of time.
So, Whitey may be back somewhere, someday, to manage once again. But we in St. Louis all should be thankful that he made that decision to stay in the dugout, not to step upstairs and be a GM. Because Whitey Herzog, throughout the decade of the 80s, has managed brilliantly, outwitting countless counterparts on the diamond and leading the Cardinals to 3 pennants and 1 World Series. He was colorful, decisive, dynamic. He'll never be forgotten, and perhaps never effectively be replaced. That's it, Larry.
I think you pretty well summed it up. I know the whole town has been talking about it, and to you and your staff and the News 4 staff, you've done a terrific job bringing this whole story in this expanded edition.
Thanks. By the way, we'll have the Zippos again next week, and we'll dedicate those to Whitey Herzog.
Well, I tell you, it's understandable we don't have them tonight, but I don't think that when you finish it all up and you start going back over the history, as Zip was just referring, that you can't think of your own personal memories of Whitey and that team. And so that's how we want to leave you tonight, with some memories that really highlight Whitey and in his glory days.